That's a hell of a teammate.
Yeah.
We are live and ready to go.
Right.
All right. I don't know if you guys heard that music, but if you did, drop in the chat who sang that song, and you will get a bonus points from the Sports Camp team. Welcome everyone to the where you go, Ryan, all over it. Look at you, Ryan. We got a lot of Hall & Oates fans, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Weird that that's the first song that came to my head, but you know what? We're going to roll with it. Thank you, Mike, for the assist.
I got you, Charlotte. I'm like, like Isaiah Thomas throwing out those assists, baby. Old
Exactly.
It was Isaiah doing the Hall & Oates days. Man Eater, all that. I know the whole Hall & Oates.
Whole catalog.
Yes.
Love that about you. I knew you were a real one, Mike.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. Really excited to launch the Careers in Sports Media event presented by Fox Sports. My name is Patrick Stack. I'm the executive director and co-founder for Sports Biz Camps, which is the nonprofit organization putting this event on. I'm going to kind of kick us off here with a couple of things to ground the conversation and then get out of the way so that we can hear from Jacob and Mike and Charlotte about their particular career paths in the sports media industry. And you guys can ask them questions and we can continue talking about the wonderful musings of Hall & Oates. Also, John Bonney here as well. He's going to be following kind of what's happening in the Q&A and the chat. So I know we've got some people jumping in on the music trivia, which is great, but continue to use the chat throughout the event for any comments you guys have regarding anything that's being said, and also to build on a lot of the takeaways. So thank you again for coming. Really excited to have you here. I'm going to jump in and then get out of the way as quickly as possible. Lana, you got me?
Yep, you're good.
So thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our proud and appreciative sponsors, Fox Sports and Cast Iron Media. Truly, we do all this for you as students in partnership with these amazing organizations who allow us to do it at no cost to you, because it's the right thing to do in terms of giving you guys the insights and the access to the industry. So thank you again for everyone for being here. So at Sports Biz Camps, we kind of have two different pillars to our programming. One is college readiness programs for high school students to get you to and through college. The other program, obviously, is for career readiness, which is getting college students to careers and access to industry pros. So this is one of those initiatives. Everything we do is about the 3 A's: awareness, access, and acceleration. Helping you understand career pathways within the sports industry, giving you access to people that can help you understand what that looks like and how to get into that, and acceleration. So providing all of our programs at no cost, and also for students that stay engaged, scholarship dollars as well. All right, so as we start thinking about this particular program, we want you guys to get involved. This is not Professor Stack awkward lecture. This is an active learning environment, okay? So we've obviously got our panel here. They're going to be joining us from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Mike, Charlotte, and Jacob, and we'll be hearing much more about them shortly. Following that, you all are going to be able to sit down in roundtables for career conversations with representatives from both Fox Sports and also from one of our sponsors, Cast Iron Media. So that's a networking opportunity for you to sit down, ask questions about how they got to their career, ask questions about various things that you guys are facing as you're starting to make that really challenging college or career transition. Okay, so that's part 2 of today's program. 16 pros, as I mentioned before, from both organizations will be here. So thank you again to those organizations for your support. And now as we kind of jump in and get ready for it, I'm going to ask you guys to do a true or false question. So if the answer is true, give me a heart if you think it's true. If it's false, I guess, there's probably not even a thumbs down option. If you think it's false, give us a thumbs up.
A wow.
A wow. A wow would be a false, okay? True or false? It's not what you know, it's who you know or who knows you. A lot of hearts. All right, look at this, and it works. All right, so this is what we call getting involved, team. All right, this is an active learning environment. So lots of hearts. Lana, that's not you pressing the button, right?
No, hands are up.
Okay. So I would tend to agree with you. And I think as we start to lay the foundation for this conversation and really what we want you guys to take away from today, it's about who you know, okay? So who you know isn't just having access to that person, but you have access to that person so they can teach you what you need to know. And that's wherein lies the opportunity. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Who you know affects what you know, which affects where you can go. Okay? I also love gifts, if you couldn't tell. That has a term. The term we're using is social capital. And we're using a term because we want you guys to put arms around that concept, right? It's not just about networking. It's about accruing and understanding social capital. And you're going to hear that throughout our presentation today. And once again, the Career Conversations is a social capital building opportunity. I know you're looking like networking, but it's not. It's an opportunity for you to understand and build and accrue social capital that you yourself can use. What is social capital? It's like a currency. It's like money, or it's like crypto, I guess. It has value, and in fact, it can be invaluable. You might not know exactly how you could benefit from a relationship, but it could come back years later and really support you, right? So it's an invaluable resource and currency, something you can build. And then for our panelists today and for all the folks that are part of the roundtables, it's something you can lend as well. So hopefully you all are here because you want to build and understand it. But then 2, 4, 5, however many years down the road, you come back and you're lending your time and your social capital to high school students and college students behind you. So I know you get it, appreciate it. The concept of social capital. And as you're thinking through our presentation today and our panelists, I think they'll be talking at length about kind of how they were able to have some access to people and social capital and how it helped them in their career. And clearly they want to lend it by being here today. So I'm going to stop there and kick it and welcome our esteemed panelists. I'm very excited to have Mike and Charlotte and Jacob here. So the best way to start is introductions. Charlotte, we're going to start with you. I think we had talked about this a little bit. I'm going to drop your bio in the chat so people can get like the legit bio. But from you, your current role, hometown, and the best career advice you ever received.
Well, I'm eager to see my bio as well. So drop that in there and I'll figure out where I came from. I am my official title, host and reporter at Fox Sports, mostly on the digital side, but I've been lucky enough to do some stuff with the broadcast teams as well. Wait, what were the other two? I've already forgotten, Patrick. It was my actual title. Hometown, best career advice. I grew up outside of Boston, but I live in Brooklyn, New York now. The best advice I ever got isn't specifically career advice, but it has become it. It was my mom who said to me that there's a line from the Talmud. My mom's Jewish, and that's a Hebrew text, and it says, if I'm not for myself, who is? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? And that to me just sort of encompasses all of it, because no one is going to advocate for you the way you're going to advocate for you. And no one really cares what happens to you as much as you care what happens to you, and maybe your parents and loved ones. And I think that the flip side of that is that if you're only looking out for yourself, you're A, not going to get anywhere, and B, it's sort of a useless existence. And if not now, when? It's like, you just got to go do it. The only way things happen are by taking that initiative. So I think that sort of hits on the key points for me. And I try to live my life that way, but it's also been invaluable for my career.
Charlotte, look at you getting deep from the jump.
I love it.
Sorry.
Also important to note, you guys get ready to get those heart emojis ready. So I just found out prior to this that Charlotte was nominated for an Emmy, correct? Can you shed some light on that?
You're going to make me blush.
Yeah, this is true. So the Sports Emmy Awards came out today.
See, even the dog's happy.
The dog is very happy. Either that or the Amazon person's here. Zandy, please. She got an Emmy nomination for a program she worked on, Outstanding Interactive Experience, Original Programming for Fox College Football, Ultimate College Football Road Trip, which she can elaborate a little bit on, but it's a heck of an honor for our company and for Charlotte and her whole team.
Congratulations, Charlotte.
Congratulations, Charlotte.
Thanks, guys. Stop it.
Mike, we'll come to you next. And I think Jacob's dog's probably still barking a little bit, so we'll give him a little bit of a break. So name, role, hometown, and best career advice.
First of all, congratulations, Charlotte, on the Emmy nomination. You're going to win it. I really believe. I believe in manifestation. So think about it. It's going to happen. I'm Mike Hill. I've been a studio host at Fox Sports for the last 9 years. I actually started FS1. I was one of the first people there. Thanks to Jacob. We'll get into that in just a second. I was born in New York, but I was raised in Bessemer, Alabama. I was in the Air Force for 6 years. And the best advice, I don't know if me and Charlotte mom, they might be sisters, but it's similar. My mom told me one time when I was talking about getting into the business, she said, stop talking about it and be about it. Just go ahead and do it. If it is to be, it's up to me, so go out there and make it happen for yourself and believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, who can you expect to believe in you? So I've taken that and I've run with it for a 27-year career. And now I enjoy giving back some of the same knowledge that, my mom and other people have given to me. So I'm happy to be here.
Love it, Mike. Thank you so much. There's already synergies. This wasn't even planned necessarily. We didn't talk advice in the pre-plan, so that's just serendipitous. And then Jacob, you're next, buddy.
My name is Jacob Ullman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Production and Talent Development at Fox. And hometown is Newport Beach, California. I was actually born there, and I still live here. And best advice I ever got, which will be something that kind of impact you all as you get further in your careers. But sometimes the best career move you can make is by not making a move at all. Meaning you might get offered an opportunity somewhere else. You might hem and haw and write down pros and cons, and almost, I think the natural instinct when somebody reaches out to you with a cool, new, exciting opportunity, just same as if somebody new wants to date you, you're excited, it's new. Sometimes taking a step back and just saying, is that better than where I'm at? Don't ever forget when you're working for a company, the time you've invested, the relationships you created. And more often than not, if you're happy where you are, not moving is actually the best thing in staying pat.
Mm-hmm.
Love that advice. I think for a lot of our young folks that probably, wanting to bounce around from job to job, which can be beneficial in some instances, but isn't the only path to take. So love that advice, Jacob. All right, we're going to jump into it. Once again, I dropped some stuff in the chat. Our guy, John Bonney, here is our sideline reporter. John, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So John came to this event last year. He's an alumnus, which is pretty cool. John, you're an alumnus. Look at you. That's awesome. So John is here to monitor the chat. So panelists, if you want to look at the chat, go ahead, but John's got you, okay? And if you have questions, please ask them in the Q&A. John's going to be looking at that and bringing those questions up to the stage. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So please take us up on that. And once again, you can jam the hearts and the likes and the wows to give our panelists that kind of satisfaction. So first question coming out of the gate, college or career transition. I know it's a painful transition. I know we all miss college. Maybe we'll start with you, Mike. Your first professional experience out of college. So how did you get that role? And then one of the things we talked about was in that role, what did you learn that you still apply today?
Thank you. First of all, I was in the United States Air Force. I served 6 years in the military. So I went an unconventional route. So I got an internship while I was in the military, went to school while I was in there. But the day I got discharged from the military is the day I got my first job in broadcasting. I could have taken a job because I was working at the National Security Agency. I had a top secret clearance. I still don't know how I got a top secret clearance. I still don't. Obviously, the government was not doing background checks like they do today, because I still don't know how I got it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You can read the book and find out about that. But I got out, and I could have taken a job in the private sector making $85,000, $90,000 a year, which at the age of 24 was a lot of money in the private sector if I would have gone into that. But I wanted to go into broadcasting. I wanted to be a sportscaster. And so I sent out all these tapes. I sent out 75 tapes, and I got 73 rejection letters. And one of the callbacks was telling me how horrible my tape was. And it was just one opportunity. That's what I always say. All it takes is one right yes to give you that first opportunity, and you can just run with it. So I got this call from Hagerstown, Maryland, 2 hours after I got discharged. And they asked me if I wanted to take a job for making less than $7 an hour. And I jumped at it because it was what I wanted to do. So what I learned first and foremost is it's not just about the money. It's about the passion. It's about the journey. It's about taking something that you enjoy doing, waking up in the morning and enjoying doing what you're doing. And that first 6 months of being in Hagerstown, Maryland, I just enjoyed doing what I did. And like I said, 27 years later, I'll always look back at that time, at that moment. And even though I'm making a little bit more money now, I'll look back and say, that's the passion that I want to continue to have throughout the rest of my career. is having that love for what I do every single day. So that's the biggest takeaway I took from that first job.
It's amazing. Thanks for sharing. Charlotte, how about you?
I had a very unconventional path to the sports world. Growing up, I knew I wanted to be a writer. I knew I was a total ham, and I had no idea what I was going to do with that. I went to a small liberal arts college where I went into the career center as a senior because that's what everybody was doing. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go meet with this guy in a suit. And he had a bunch of binders on the table, and he said, okay, so what's your dream job? And I said, well, I would like to be on staff at Esquire in Manhattan. And this sort of like fear takes over his face. He goes, okay, well, we don't know anyone in that world, but we know a lot of people in insurance in Portland, Maine. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm a little bit on my own here. So I had started a blog, which in 2011 you could do. And I just treated it as like a living resume. I was posting on it 5 times a day about lifestyle stuff, books, things, just basically things that I liked, and got a hefty readership, which still sort of mystifies me, but I'm very grateful for. And I actually lived at home with my parents for a year after college, which is something that I know not everyone has the opportunity to do, so I think I'm very aware of the role that my privilege and, my parents saying like, we'll house and keep feeding you for a year while you try to do these internships, or, I was writing for free. And I'm very aware of how that safety net gave me a jumping off point that not everyone has, which I would love to change. I would love to see the industry create those safety nets so that, and I think it's gotten a little better since I came along, but I always say that my story, I did this myself, but I had a lot of help. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. But I applied for a job at a cooking magazine. My first job was at Cooks Illustrated. And America's Test Kitchen, which was a TV show. I was 22. They put me in charge of their YouTube channel, which now is like a VP level job. But back then they were like, you're young, the internet. And I think that from that experience, the most important thing I learned was that showing up can be as important as the quality of your work. I just kept posting on this stupid blog, and it was fine, but it was the fact that I just kept doing it. And I had this sort of, I often say to people that if you don't have the compulsion to write or the compulsion to speak or to do this or to have opinions or thoughts or research things or report things, there are a lot of ways that you can make money that's easier and less painful and a clearer career path. But if you find yourself just moved to do it, then keep doing it, because as Mike said, that's where you might not make a lot of money in the beginning, but that's where in the end it'll pay off. And if you're not passionate about something, you don't have that drive to keep doing it. But I also think it was just sort of a lesson in, I was 9 to 5. I sat at that desk every day for 2 years. I was doing mostly marketing stuff. I didn't love it, but I kept doing it, and it led to other opportunities. And I think that just sort of sticking it out is can be it can be hard to do, but it's worth it.
From Esquire to cooking to Fox Sports. What a linear path.
Yeah, Cooks Illustrated, then I was at Sports Illustrated. It all comes full circle.
And then Jacob, how about you?
Yeah, so once again, my path is not traditional, but I think that's kind of how it works for everybody, is that there is no exact path. My whole life, when you're 5-6 years old and people say, oh, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a fireman, something like that. I wanted to be a baseball announcer. I wanted to be baseball play-by-play announcer. That was kind of what my brain was locked into. And I went to USC, studied broadcast journalism with a sports studies minor, worked at the student radio station like Harry Owens does at Syracuse, and worked in the athletic department, and was really kind of entrenched in that world at school. There was a lot of cool opportunities there. Flash forward to summer between my sophomore and junior year at USC, I got an internship at Prime Ticket, which is a regional sports network. It's now called Bally Sports West. Before that, it was called Fox Sports West, and under our umbrella. I had a good, successful internship there, and they actually hired me they'd hire one USC student and one UCLA student during the school year as a paid production assistant. I got to do that my part-time my whole junior year. Summer between my junior and senior year, I'm home, and out of the blue, I get a phone call. Way back when, this is before these little things called cell phones. We used to have phones in a house, and there was a thing called an answering machine. Think of it like your voicemail. But they left a message. A guy from Fox Sports, a guy named Doug Jackson, said, "Hey, this is Doug Jackson at Fox Sports. Just seeing if you have any interest in the NFL, and would love it if you give me a call back." So Fox, 6 months earlier, had got the contract to broadcast the NFL and was actually coming on in the fall of 1994. David Hill, our original president, was looking for people that younger people that weren't afraid of technology, was going to be doing a lot of stuff with computers and the like.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody at USC actually recommended me. I still to this day don't know who. And I started at Fox the summer before my senior year, worked there part-time. And then when I graduated, I was just, there was not a full-time job waiting for me, but we were such a small company. I just didn't take no for an answer and just kind of hung out in the building and just kind of did stuff. At that point, we only had the NFL, and we actually had the NHL, which it seems like, is not something that people think of with Fox Sports necessarily. And I just made it happen. I just kind of was around, and when there was going to be an opportunity, I was going to get it. And before that football season started, I got a full-time opportunity in our research department. So think about, looking up stats like, how many games has Tom Brady started and won his career, any sort of crazy stats. We did that all internally. And I worked for a specific broadcast crew, which was our number 2 broadcast crew, and kind of primarily with what we call a broadcast associate, who is produces the graphics during a game. So if you're watching a game and it has any stats on the screen, that person works with a graphics operator and kind of creates that information. The name of that broadcast associate I worked with in my first full year out of school was a guy named Eric Shanks, who now is the CEO of Fox Sports. So it's amazing how small things can be, and also the amount of people that are still at Fox Sports for that long. And so I kind of was already working at the company I was working for before I graduated.
Very, very awesome. And I'm sure it's cool for you, like Charlotte and Mike, like to know Jacob's story. You guys have never really talked about that before, honestly.
I think it's awesome. I think that's a story in itself when you're talking about when Jacob started at Fox Sports, and there's a relationship he has with a guy named Eric Shanks that's there. Yeah. And Eric may not have been a huge, important person at that particular time, but developing that relationship over a period of time, you never know where people are going. That's why I think it's really important. I tell people this all the time, no matter who you are as a production assistant or if you're the president of the network, treat people with class and dignity and grace, because you don't know, because the people that work for you today can be your boss tomorrow. I've seen it happen before. I've seen it happen plenty of times where I was working in Nashville and I had a news director and we was looking for a weekend person. And the news director came in and asked me about this particular person. And he said, yeah, I was going to hire this other guy, but he used to be a sports director when I was interning in Oregon. And he treated me like, you know what? He said, I will never hire this guy. So he was in a position to hire and fire at that particular time. So you don't know what people are going to be able to do in their careers. Now, obviously, some people have to earn and gain your respect. We get that. But go in and treat people. I don't care if it's the garbage man. I don't care if it's the maid. I don't care if it's a production assistant, person running your prompter. Know their names, know their background, know their story, know everything you can about them, get to know them and treat them as a colleague. Jacob is pretty much, when I came in, is my boss, one of my bosses. And, he always treated me with love and respect. And, I came up through the ranks or whatever, but I tried to be a good person. more so than anything. And when I left ESPN to come to Fox, I had to humble myself because I left ESPN doing Sports Center and doing NFL Live and every show in the building. And when I first got there, I don't know if you remember this, Jake. When I came out to LA, I was doing sports updates, 15-second updates.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? It's a job. I don't care. I'm in the building. I'm in the house. That's all that matters. So
we made that point to Mike. We said, hey, this is a way for us to get your foot in the door here. We have bigger plans for you. We know what you're capable of. And Mike was humble and willing to kind of bet on himself.
Yeah. So, and that's important. So everybody needs to do that. So I just said all that to say this. Just treat everybody, no matter who it is, with the respect that they deserve.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too. We think about like social capital, or we think about like building relationships. It's flat too. It's not just up or down. How you treat your classmates or how you treat your colleagues is just as important as you treat your boss. Because
those are also the people who can talk about you and say things to other people who will then spread that. And in an industry where you really all you have is your name, it's, you know, you can only control so much of how you're talked about and how much of your image, and a lot of people's biases come in when they're talking about you. But if you know that you've done everything in your power to control that narrative by being a decent person, it's a lot easier to go to sleep at night.
And you'll find that doors will open themselves, right, because of that.
And when you was talking about, I love that you guys use social capital instead of networking. You can gain a lot through social capital, but you can also lose a lot through social capital too. You know, one thing I gathered from the first time we started talking here, and I put it on my Twitter page, is like you can meet a lot of people in this world, but you know, if you're somebody that nobody wants to work with, if you're a butthole, I don't care how good you are, people aren't going to want to hire you because we're all talented in a sense, right? See, Mike and Charlotte could be up for the same job and we're both good at what we're doing, right? And Jacob could know both of us, and he knows that I'm a terrible person or a good person to work with, and Charlotte's a nice person, but our skill set's the same. Who's going to get the job? The person that you want to work with, the person that you feel like I can have a good relationship with outside of that job. Sure, the skills come into play, but at the same time, if you're somebody that nobody wants to be around or work with, or you're just I hate to say prick or whatever, then I'm sorry if anybody's out there offended. Sometimes I just can't, the right words don't come to my mind. But if you're a prick, then you know, nobody wants to work with you. I don't care how good you are, and it's not going to last. And we've seen plenty of people in our business who right now to this day really can't get a good job because of their personality and their characteristics instead of what they're able to bring to the table on air.
So thank you, Mike. We totally align with what you're talking about. It's staying to the basics of being a good human, and how you treat people is going to come around full circle. I offered and I mentioned in the chat that I would bring a couple students up to distill some takeaways from the first question. So I'm going to start with Aster, and then I had Kendall, but I lost you. But Kendall, if you want to raise your hand again. So Aster, how you doing?
Good. Wait, can you hear me? Just checking real quick.
You sound great.
All right, awesome.
So Aster, where are you joining us from? And then maybe kind of distill, like, what was one of your takeaways from that first question of the group?
Yeah, so I'm actually a junior at the University of Albany, State University of New York. So this is a fun panel to be a part of, right from New York to see you guys. I'm actually based in New York City, so pretty fun. So I did have a good question to ask, something I think can be pretty beneficial.
Real quick though, Aster, before you ask, I want you to you got to answer something for me. Then I'll let you ask a question.
Oh yeah, my apologies. Yeah, go ahead.
What was a theme? Well, first off, you must be a John Bonnie buddy.
I believe so, actually. Yeah.
So first off, was there a theme across Charlotte, Mike, and Jacob's stories about their pathway that you thought was kind of interesting, like something that each pathway had in common?
It definitely seemed like all of their paths definitely had different like lead ups, you know, like Charlotte kind of just mentioned how she went to like just the career professional department, you know. Mike was more so from a military standpoint. It was like, you know, he took the shot. Jacob definitely seemed more like, you know, he's building up to it through internships and stuff like that. But the commonality was definitely like keeping your head down and pushing and just working toward the profession you want to go to. You know, It definitely seems like I'm sure you had more than enough offers within different industries and stuff like that, or at least other opportunities elsewhere. But you kind of like bet it on yourself. And I saw that to be pretty big within all of you. So yeah, that was the biggest theme for sure.
So, Aster, just to kind of distill that a little bit more, I think each of the paths was different, right? It wasn't a straight line. I think that's the important takeaway that I want you and other students to understand is don't be stressed out about making their own decision and then falling out of line. Like your career is not like college where you go from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior. It can do different paths. So that's okay. Like blaze your own path, I think, is the takeaway. And I think your stories, I think, were amazing. So, Aster, I will stop talking. It is your floor. What's your question, buddy?
All right, yeah, no, well said. So like I mentioned, I am a junior at UAlbany. So my question is, as a student searching for internships and job opportunities within sports, basically dishing out resumes and cover letters left and right, what would you say has helped you keep pushing and grinding to land that foot in the door within sports? And, just something that like helped keep you like grounded and kept you pushing, basically. Yeah, that was it.
So yeah, so advice for Aster, he's grinding, but help him see the light at the end of the tunnel, or give him some advice.
Jacob's the one that gives out the internship, so
We'll start with Jacob.
There you go. No, honestly, my best advice would be the amazing thing in 2022 is you can get in touch with almost virtually anybody through, social media and the like. And it's easy to say, oh, I watched Mike Hill on TV. I read Charlotte Wilder's column or saw her something she did digitally and reach out to them. I think it's smart to do some research and to Mike's point, like figure out the people that are hiring and those people are not going to be on screen or, doing video or writing, read articles. There's so many resources, follow the right people on Twitter, something like the Sports Business Daily, which comes out every day and has a ton of names of people in the industry at all the various companies. Follow them. Try to connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, DM. Those are the kind of the people that are going to make those opportunities happen for you. The people behind the scenes are going to be, you could have a person like Mike Hill be a wonderful mentor, but Mike is going to eventually connect you with somebody in my shoes, so just be strategic a little bit on who you reach out with, and realize that 99 no's are superseded by one yes. So some people won't reply to you. Some people will be very gracious with their time. You're going to get all extremes, and you just can't be discouraged. It's a competitive world out there.
It's the biggest thing. Don't get discouraged. Like Jacob said, you can reach out to me, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to Jacob. I mean, I hit Jacob at least 4 or 5 times a year with somebody like yourself looking for an internship at Fox Sports, and I'm like, have you? I think I just did that. Like, did I do that last week, Jacob? And yeah, and he just said it closed. So I just did that with somebody last week. But that's the most important thing. Do your research. Don't get discouraged by it. And once again, you're going to hear a lot of no's or no replies whatsoever. Just keep on pushing. And I always tell people this: play the game. It's important to be genuine. Don't get me wrong. Be yourself, but at the same, play the game, because especially people on air, and I'm speaking for a lot of people because I know them, they're very cocky. They're kind of arrogant. They like praise. Don't get me wrong. So if you come at them and you're like, hey, I enjoy what you're doing on television. I saw that segment, blah, 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 this and that, blah, blah, blah. And you get their attention, and then you kind of butter them up a little bit. They're like, hey, I'm a junior at Albany, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to get into it. I would love to do exactly what you're doing. I saw your path, asking questions. I'm like, hey, is there a chance, like you guys have any kind of internships? That's the way you start that conversation. And then once you butter somebody like me up, and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I like Aster. Let me hit up Jacob, man, because this Aster guy's great, because he's telling me everything I want to hear right now. I'm going to hit Jacob up and like, you should hire Aster because he's wonderful. He's awesome. But also, I know your credentials are going to be there as well. So I think that's part of the game as well. It's just kind of like Jacob said, doing your research, not getting discouraged, but also pushing and going for it and not listening to the no's, but just look for that one right yes.
I also think the more specific you are in reaching out to people, if you say, hey, I liked this thing you wrote for this reason. I thought this thing spoke to me. I liked this segment you did because you got at something that other people don't. Like, tell the person that you're actually paying attention, not that you're copying and pasting the same thing to everybody, because
Mhm.
not only does it make people feel good to hear nice things about themselves, it shows them, oh, this person has critical reasoning skills. This person can understand what makes something good, so then maybe they can do it. Or maybe they can work behind the scenes to make this better. And I also think a part of your question that I really liked was, how do you keep going? You know, like, how do you keep your nose to the grindstone? And I think it is tapping into a well of confidence that you just need to keep for yourself, which is like, I can do this, and
Mhm.
harnessing that in a competitive way. Being like, why shouldn't it be me? You know, it's like the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Why should, Joe Burrow was like, I don't want this to be an underdog story. I don't want it to be why not us. It should be us. And I really think that that mentality is a huge part of what got them there. And I know that I definitely harnessed some level of, I want to beat the boys at their own game, as a lot of people had seen it. And I think that that sounds sort of silly or sort of juvenile maybe, but it was something that really kept me going, of sort of proving that you can belong in a space, even if there are people who might not think that you do. And so all of those things, and keeping all that in mind and sort of using it as, on your worst day, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep going, can be helpful.
Keep on going.
Aster, great question, Aster. And kudos to you for showing up today. Kudos to you for raising your hand and asking a great question. That's a great first step, buddy. Put yourself in the room.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was actually really insightful, so I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Actually, of course, it was insightful. All right.
Get up, Jacob,
You
for
never
the
know.
internship.
We'll see you.
You got connections.
Kendall, how's it going? Where are you joining us from? Did you have a question for the group?
I'm joining from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm at a small liberal arts out here. And my big question for the group was, maybe Miss Wilder, you can resonate with this question, but someone coming from a smaller liberal arts college with not many networks or connections to the big corporations out there, how do you put your foot in the door? How do you get out there in the sports industry?
That's a great question. I think for me, my path was obviously a little circular, or that's not the right word. I'm a writer. I think for me, it was getting a foot in the door in the world I wanted to be in, which was media. Starting at a cooking magazine, it's like, how did you end up at Fox Sports? And, every day I sort of pinch myself that it worked out. But I think taking that job, knowing that the skills I was building, the reporting skills, the writing skills, the technical skills, the producing skills, all of those things can transfer from no matter what you're talking about. So for me, that was the path forward. I didn't even know sports was going to be the place that made the most sense for me. So you guys are all way ahead of me in that sense. But once I did realize that it was a place that fit my personality and the kind of storytelling I wanted to do, I had already worked in that world enough to have made connections largely through Twitter, to be honest. I think social media has been huge for me. The first job I had in sports was at USA Today. And someone there reached out because they'd seen my work on Twitter, and I had done some sports, but not primarily. And when they wanted to hire me, I was like, I'm not a sports writer. And they were like, but you're a writer. You can learn the sports part. So I think getting all of the skills you can that make up the basis, because sports is just remembering who did what when. Actually being able to talk about it and reason about it and think about it in a fresh, interesting way is much harder. And so if you develop those reasoning skills and those writing skills, I think I would just reach out to people on Twitter. I would DM people. I would respond to them. I would tweet out articles and tag the person, be like, I loved this piece of work. Like, you do that enough, you put yourself in the room, even if you're coming from the smallest place in the world. And so I think just being very vocal and doing it, not expecting any sort of payback, like doing it because you genuinely care about it too, and reaching out to people because you want to learn, not necessarily asking for something, is a great way to start.
Anyone else want to add to that?
Well, Patrick, you said to follow Charlotte on Twitter. I would recommend that for everybody too. She's funny, she's smart, and come on.
Sometimes I'm funny. Sometimes I read my own tweets and I'm like, I'm annoyed with myself. So thank you for saying that, Jacob.
Yeah, but I do think that you all have the advantage of social media. I kind of mentioned it before, and it's a great way to you just, if you want to be in the sports world, in the sports media world, it's a relatively small group of people that are relevant in it, and you'll follow one person, then you'll see them retweet somebody, and it's a little bit of a process, but you can immerse yourself and really follow the discussion and even be part of the discussion without that much work, and see what works for people, see where they work, and you can connect with people without, to Charlotte's point, you can connect with people and not necessarily ask for something, and then when you need to ask for something, you've already established a relationship. So it's an important thing that and Mike kind of alluded to. You don't just reach out to somebody and say, hey, I need an internship. It's, hey, I appreciate what you do. You work at CBS Sports. I really appreciate what you guys did with the with March Madness. You guys, couple cool moments, whatever it may be. Take an interest in what they do, and without asking anything at that moment, and establish a relationship. And then when you actually do want to ask something or need to ask something, you'll already have a little collateral in the bank.
One other quick thing on that, Jacob and Kendall, to this point, I still do that. I do that. Like, I loved Jamie Erdahl's work this year on the tournament, her sideline reporting and her feature stuff. And we don't know each other. We were at the same football games this fall, but we never actually met. And I just DM'd her and I was like, hey, I just want to tell you that you are absolutely crushing it. And it is a joy to watch. And I don't need anything from her. And I just think that there's huge value in, if you think something nice about someone, telling them.
And it's genuine too, because I'm sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, and I was just going to add, Jamie Erdahl is one of the nicest people in the business, not to mention very talented, Midwestern roots, and I'm sure she really appreciated Charlotte reaching out.
And you will always continue to do that, no matter how high you go in the business, how big you get in the business. You should always reach back and give kudos when you can, when it's necessary. Because on Twitter, especially somebody that's public facing or whatever, we get all the negative stuff all the time. We see all that. So it's nice to see something nice pop up on your screen or in your DM every now and then, talking about some of the good things you're doing. And even when you're making transition, I'm doing it now. I've been in the business 27 years, mostly in sports. And now I've kind of transitioned into news, entertainment, reality shows, producing behind the scenes, got my own production company, whatever. So I'm evolving as well. And I'm reaching out to people that I'm trying to, get into that part of the business as well. But once again, doing it from a genuine place and really caring about the person and not just trying to use that person is really important. Jacob is the reason, once again, that I'm at Fox, is because when I was at ESPN, I just saw something that was different that they were building over at Fox. I met him during the general, and I just liked him. I like the people at Fox. I love the personalities and the attitudes, and I love just the energy that they emitted. And I was like, this is what I want to be a part of. And he would always say something to me when he saw me out as well. So it's important to reach out and to do that. And to your point, real quick, no matter if you come from a small place, even if you come from the smallest places, you can reach the highest levels because social media and the internet. We didn't have that. Jacob and I didn't have that when I was coming up, man. When you're talking about a phone and an answer machine, we had phones with cords still attached to them and rotary dials. We had that. When I was coming up in the business, you can get online just like you got on this computer right now and put all your work out online, and hopefully people will see it. And it only takes, you don't have to have 10,000 likes, and that's what people get caught up in this whole social media world. People get caught up on how many likes you get. It doesn't take how many likes. It doesn't matter how many likes you get. It matters the right person liking it. So if you get Jacob's eye who likes it and he sees it and he wants to hire you, that's all that matters. So don't get caught up, I only got 36 likes or whatever. Well, if 33 of those likes were by people that's just watching something on YouTube or whatever, and 3 of them were by executives that make major decisions, guess what? You've done your job. So don't worry about you came from a small place, because you can go to bigger heights now because of social media and the internet.
Kendall, great question. Kudos to you for showing up, man. You know, like that's why this is an inclusive organization, and no matter where you go to college, it's for any college student. So, but once again, you have to answer the call. So, kudos to you for showing up. Kudos for asking a great question, and panelists, amazing advice. Thanks.
Yes,
thanks,
thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good luck, man.
Thank you,
John. I want
Notable
to
arts.
John, I want to kick it to you. We have a question from Toby. I'm going to show on the screen. Do you want to read it for us?
Yeah. Did you ever have a moment where your passion for your job was tested and you doubted you wanted to keep pursuing your career field? What motivated you to continue on your path?
Charlotte, you want to go first?
Yeah, I've had many. I can map the streets of Brooklyn by where I have gone for walks and called my mom and been like, I cannot do this anymore. And I think just saying it is such a good test of being like, oh my God, if someone took this away from me, I might die. It's like, no, you can't do it anymore because this is the only thing you want. And it sort of tests your own, hearing yourself say it is like, you know, and I've been in very challenging situations in the workplace. I've been on staff at a bunch of different companies. I have definitely run into issues of sexism, implicit or explicit, every place that I've worked. There have been some days where I've been like, if one guy screws one other thing up for me, I'm gonna explode. And I do think that the desire to continue to prove that I belong as much, or to prove that not even that I'm a woman, but that I'm doing it with a different perspective and a non-traditional form of sports broadcasting is what keeps me going, because I think that it is really hard, and it's a very competitive business. It's very cutthroat. A lot of people, the public side of it can be difficult. You know, people have said really awful things about me on the internet, and just the desire to not stoop to that level and acknowledge it, but to ultimately have the last laugh by succeeding and doing it in a way that I think is authentic and kind is what keeps me going. But I've definitely had those moments. It's a really good question.
Mike,
I go through it all the time. I mean, like even when I was supposed to be at the Mecca of Sports, when I was at ESPN, I had plenty of doubts. I had plenty of people trying to tell me how to be, how to act, how to present myself on air, and what to do. You know, Charlotte brings up the fact that being a female in sports, you know, like sometimes being a black man in sports is also difficult as well. And I'm not saying that it doesn't benefit sometimes, whatever, but also hear some of the sexism that Charlotte's talking about. When I was at ESPN, I would hear guys talking about how women didn't belong as well. And that would bother me, you know, because I have two daughters. Obviously, I got my mom, and I was raised by women. And so you hear those types of conversations being had by your colleagues or people in sports, or even be going into locker rooms and hearing athletes saying that they don't want women in the locker room, whatever. You know, you have your doubts. You have your doubts. My biggest doubt came when I was in Dallas, and I had this trajectory. Got out of the military once again, like 2 hours after I got out, got my first job, and I was in New York within 4 years. So I went from Hagerstown, Maryland, making less than $7 an hour, to New York City in 4 years. So I was fast pals, being written up in national magazines, and the trajectory was great. And then 9/11 happened, and my show got canceled. And when our show got canceled, it was the first time I was out of a job. I went from the stability of the Air Force to being without a job after 5.5 years of being there. And then I went to Dallas and got a job there, and it was the worst experience of my life, not just my professional life, but my personal life. And I went into a deep depression, and I worked for a guy. I'm not even going to get into it, but there's a lot of things that happened during that time that made me doubt myself, doubt my profession, doubt if I wanted to get into it. And so I've been there before, but I was able to overcome because people in my life, like my mom and my friends, you know, they believed in me. And deep down inside, like Charlotte said, I had to believe in myself too. And I was like, what would I do if I did not do this? And I couldn't come up with an answer, because this is my passion. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I always say, sometimes your biggest burdens turn out to be your best blessings. Well, in my career, my biggest burdens have turned out to be my biggest blessings, because when I was in Dallas and I got fired. If I didn't get fired from Dallas, I would have been content working there as a weekend sports anchor for a long period of time. And the man that fired me just retired. So I would have been his weekend sports anchor for a long period of time. If that would not have happened, I would not be been looking for a job. I would not have gotten to ESPN. I would not have gone it because my next step was ESPN. So I got to ESPN for 9 years. And then after ESPN, things didn't go well at ESPN. Guess what happened? That burden turned into the blessing that I still currently have at Fox Sports right now. So I keep on saying that sometimes when you feel like a door is being closed, it's not the end of the world. It means a bigger door is opening and it's going. So you're going into the direction that you need to go into that suits your purpose when it comes to your professional career. So always have that passion and believe in yourself, like we said in the beginning, and don't look back.
Awesome answers. Yeah, Jacob.
I had mine's a little bit more straightforward. I just had a bad boss, and I was worked under that person. And really, they were more experienced in the industry, and I think felt threatened by me, and didn't like that. I probably was a little better at some things than them and smarter and hard, in a different place in my career, probably harder working, younger. And just, they didn't want me to succeed. And they put me in a position where they weren't giving me opportunities and kind of holding me back. And sorry, we have a dog. Working from home, 2022. And it was frustrating. And I thought of leaving the industry and got, had a uncle who's a stockbroker and needed somebody to work for him. It crossed my mind that I might even do that. He didn't want me to do it. He was like, no. I stay with your passion. But it's hard when you're in a situation that you don't think you can get out of. So, you just gotta kind of hold firm and believe in yourself in a moment like that.
Mm-hmm.
Great answers, all. I want to bring up Reese had raised his hand earlier, and then there's a question from Emmy, and then believe it or not, we're coming up on time. So it flies fast. And it's so funny. We had scripted a bunch of questions, but this is so much better, right?
Organic, man. Just having a conversation.
And like your answers are so real. Like that's how we want it. So I really appreciate
hitting
it.
on the things we talked about anyway. So
yeah. If you didn't know, Reese goes to Maryland.
Oh, I was hurt.
You don't say.
And Mike, I'm going to take your advice and butter up all three of you before I ask my question. So Mike, that station, my friend is now a sports anchor at that station. So it's kind of crazy that's crazy. Charlotte, I listened to your podcast with Jessica Samantha at Sports Illustrated, and it was one of the greatest times when I was at community college. And then Jacob, I don't know, you probably know this person, but Amy Leone is on the advisory board at the Shirley Povich Center for Sports.
We all know her, and she's actually, I think she's eavesdropping on this panel.
Might be in the audience.
Amy, are you in?
Amy is there.
You got a woohoo even.
So yes, I talked to Amy about a year ago, I think, when Zoom was the new normal. So I'm just really glad that Sports Biz Camps did this thing, and Patrick knows me from last year. So, but my question is, you guys talked about your paths and how different they are, and one thing that I'm struggling with now is like imposter syndrome and like seeing friends who I know in the industry already like getting jobs and other people who I know that are graduating in May, like me, having jobs set up. So how do you guys like try and like not feel that imposter syndrome when you're when you've gone about your journey and your path in this business?
First of all, I don't think anyone who is good at what they do and wants to keep getting better ever feels completely solid. I think that if you feel like, oh, I've got it made, I'm great, I don't need to work anymore, or change anything or try any harder, that's when you start losing, and that's when you've kind of already lost. So I think that being gentle with yourself, and when you feel that way, acknowledging that it's just a sign of your drive and your desire to improve. I will also say that I think no matter what level you get to, comparing yourself to other people is always going to be something that you have to fight the urge to do. It is so natural. Even I'll go on Instagram and I'll look at someone who I might think is maybe in a position that I would like to be in, or having an opportunity that I would like to have, or it's just a high profile one. And I have to think to myself, do you actually want that, Charlotte? Or do you just like that they are getting the validation? And is that, you have to be really honest with yourself, and you have to look at yourself and think in your sort of ugliest moments, like, what am I actually feeling? And no, there is someone, I guarantee you, Reese, who is looking at you being like, man, Reese really hasn't made, like, he's done this, he's done that. Like, you need to keep perspective. I know that for anyone I look at and might have those twinges, envy isn't about the person that you're looking at. It's about yourself. And so if you can turn the mirror and be like, okay, what does that say that I want? It's a great gauge for telling you what your drive is and where you want to be. And then you can separate the other person completely and just be happy for them, because you're like, oh, this is just telling me information about myself. And I think that it's really critical to even just take breaks, like set time limits on Instagram. Like, don't look. Sometimes if I'm having a bad day, and that's where, to what Kendall had asked about, we have bad days all the time. And I might look at Twitter and have a bunch of mentions that I'm an idiot. And then I get one DM from someone like Kendall. And it's like, and I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that and replied to the person, being like, I can't tell you how much I needed to hear that today. Thank you so much. And so I think just taking care of yourself and separating yourself and knowing that you're doing everything right, and something is going to break if you keep pushing against that door.
The biggest facade that we have in society today is social media and Instagram. So you notice that people don't always put up their pain on social media. They put up how well they're doing, but they're going through stuff as well too. So you got to put that in perspective. They don't always put up, oh, I'm having a bad day. I just learned how to do it myself, going through my own therapy because of all the issues I had in the past. I'm like, I refuse to just put up great things about myself on social media. So if you see my Instagram page, you'll see the good. You also see that I'm having bad days, because if I'm going to be a role model or an example out there, I want people to know that they're not alone, that you're not going to always have a utopia. It's not always going to be, rainbows and unicorns. It's not always going to be that way. So first and foremost, take a break from all that and realize that no matter how great they seem they're doing, they're not doing as great as they seem like they're doing on social media, right? And those same people are also looking at you, Reese, and saying, wow, I wish I could do what Reese is doing. They wish they could take bits and pieces from your life as well. So when you talk about imposter syndrome, first and foremost, brother, believe in you. Believe in you. There is only one you. God made your DNA and nobody else has your DNA, right? So there is something that's unique about you that nobody else can duplicate, they can't replicate, and they can't even fake it good enough, because it's who you are, right? So if you know deep down inside this is what you want to do, how you want to do it, and how you're going to pursue it, then do it. Because what is for you is for you. I'm very spiritual when it comes to that. What is meant for you will be for you. And don't look at what they have and just, hey, congratulations. Make that part of your hunger, brother. Make that your hunger. That's like, you know what? He got his. I can't wait to get mine, because mine is coming. So believe in you. So I don't ever want to see you put your head down right now to this day, man. I hope if I never see you again, I hope you will promise me right now that you will keep your head up, that you will keep your shoulders back, that you will keep your chest out, and know that it's coming for you if you really want it, if you believe it, bro. I grew up in a small town in Bessemer, Alabama. Didn't have a lot growing up at all. Went into the military, didn't have a hope in the future. I had people, even my best friends, telling me, you'll never be on television. You got to sound a certain way. You got to act a certain way to do it. I had relatives telling me I couldn't do it. I believed in me at the bottom, at the end of the day, man. So Reese, believe in you. I believe in you. So you need to believe in yourself. Who can you expect to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself, brother? Right? So forget about what they're doing. Care about what you're doing. Every day you look in the mirror and say, I care about this man right here. I can applaud them and I will appreciate them and I will support them. But before you do all that stuff, all that great energy, put most of the energy in you. Last point. You have to breathe, brother. Because if you don't breathe and you watch you're going to suffocate. Because when the plane is going down, right? And I know I'm throwing all these crazy analogies out here, but this is important because I need you to hear me right now. I'm looking right at you. I don't care about nobody else, right? Take care of you first. Take care of you first, right? When the plane is going down, what do they say? They say when the oxygen mask come down, right? You put your oxygen mask on first before you place it on the kids, whatnot. Take care of you, man. Well, you know, and you can't help other people breathe if you're suffocating. You understand what I'm saying? So once again, take care of your mental. I'm sorry, I know it went long, bro.
I love it.
Patrick, I'm gonna need the recording of this so I can play that back to myself when I'm feeling down.
No, you play it to yourself. I said it. Now you put it in your head and say it to yourself. And don't ever. I don't even want this. I had to look up imposter syndromes. I didn't even know what it was, bro. Or whatever you would have had to look it up. I didn't. Don't ever use that term ever again. Ever. Can you promise me that, brother?
I can promise you that.
And if you need something, you can call me. I guarantee you'll answer. All right. I'm there for you, bro.
Appreciate it.
Reese, I'm not going to try to follow that, but I'm just going to say one thing. I've been at Fox for 28 years, and I still have days where I feel like I'm good at my job, but I feel like I'm good at my job at Fox just because I've learned how to work there. And I'm like, I even doubt myself. If I go somewhere else, would I be able to do my job there? Because I've just figured out how to work here. We all have doubts. So you gotta, you know, we're all in this together. And the point about social media, that it only shows one side of it. And we all have bad days. Some people are better at hiding it than others, but we all have bad days.
Yeah.
Also, one other thing, my therapist likes to say, if you're lucky, life is long. And so don't always enjoy where you are and appreciate what you've done to get there. And, you know, look forward as a sense of, okay, I know I want to get somewhere, and that can be very motivating, but also it's not always about the next thing. Sometimes it's about, all right, what can I do right now? Because what you're doing right now is what next thing will show up and totally shock you.
Great work, Reese. Reese, once again, you showed up, buddy. This is back-to-back years, man. You're an alumnus.
It's crazy to
believe
think.
in you, Reese. I believe in you, bro.
Thank you, Mike.
Reese.
I appreciate
got
that
this.
so much.
All
Go
of you
Terps.
have this.
All right.
One more quick question. Try to give me a quick answer as possible because we're running over on time a little bit. Emmy mentioned, you know, it's very competitive. What is one way that you think Emmy and the rest of these folks can stand out as it pertains to trying to get a job? And try to give me a quick answer. Charlotte, come back to you.
You are the only person who can be yourself. I learned that there are a lot of people who want to do what I do. There are a lot of people who want my job. But there are a lot of people Fox could hire to do my job. Honestly, there are a lot of really talented people out there, but there's only one Charlotte Wilder. And if Fox wants Charlotte Wilder, the only person they can hire to be that is me. So find your niche, find what you're good at, double down, lean in, make sure people know that it's you doing it. I happen to be goofy. It doesn't have to be goofy. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can just be really solid reporting. It can be really great production. It can be really great communication skills or organizational skills, but whatever it is that you have, honor that, and don't think you have to lean into something you're not good at to get a job that you will ultimately not want. So really find what it is you excel at, and then become that, so that there are no other Emmys, because there's only you. You're the only Emmy.
So Jacob, you're next. We'll finish with Mike.
Yeah, I think the things you can control, you need to be the best at. And so I'll give an example. I was doing this job where I was starting as a graphics producer, and there were two other guys that had the same job. They'd been doing that job for a year. I had never done that job. So they were going to be better at me in doing graphics during a game, knowing the stats, the things that the experience of the job required, they were going to be better. So I said, I'll be better at every other aspect of the job. I will get people their game notes, their stats. When I need to make dinner reservations for the crew, I'll do the best job of that. I'll make sure we get the rides from their hotels to practice. Everything I could control, I was going to be the best at. The other stuff I'd learn and figure it out, but the stuff I could control, I'd be the best at. And everybody would say, oh, he's actually better at his job than the other two people, despite them being around for a year. Make up for it with what you can control.
Thank you, Jacob. Mike, finish us off here.
Quickly go above and beyond, like Jacob said. Don't do what's expected. Do more than what's expected. And don't do it just for a check as well. As Charlotte said, be unique. There's only one you. I will add, be versatile. I know one of the best things that's on when somebody talks about my bio, my resume, the most important adjective on there is versatile. He's versatile. I can do every job in the building. That means if I got to do college basketball, when I first came in, do UFC, I will learn everything in the building, even behind the scenes. I'll learn how to produce, because that will keep you around for a long time. And lastly, just be a good person. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you're once again, you're not a good person, you're not going to last. But if you're a good person, I know that's part of the reason why I've been around for 27 years. I might not be the best at everything. I try to be the best, and I feel in my head that I'm better than most everybody else. But I'm going to be versatile. Nobody's going to work harder. Nobody's going to be more prepared, and nobody's going to come to the table with the right type of energy than me. I feel that way, and I think that's what's kept me around for a long period of time.
Team, let's get some applause going. Let's hammer that applause emoji. Amazing work, all amazing work. Thank you so much. I'm fired up, ready to run through a wall. I think we all learned a lot, and once again, I think it's really relevant to our students, and they all deserve this type of insight. So thank you again so much for all of your support, for your time. Just for you guys, we don't pay these folks to be here. They're doing this out of the goodness of their own heart and their generosity. So thank you again for being here. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck,
Good
everybody.
luck to all of you.
Yes.
All right, so we're getting ready. Lana's on here. This is like the Oscars when you're like getting like booted off the stage. So Lana's on here to explain a kind of the next step. So as I mentioned at the outset, guys, this is the first of 2 parts. So I want to just give a quick overview of what's going to happen next. So that was awesome.
Do we hop off now, Patrick?
What'd you say?
Do we hop
You can
off
jump
now?
off. Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
All right. Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
So that was awesome. Next steps, career conversations. So we've got 6 different tables, really 5, based upon different career paths within the sports media space. Marketing is at table 2, sales is table 3, operations is table 4, production is table 5, digital and social media is table 6. So if you have interest in one of those career paths in sports media, you go to that table. We're doing 2 different 30-minute sessions. So if you go to one and it's packed and you can't get a seat, that's fine. Go to a different one, and then we'll break. After 30 minutes, you can go to that table, okay? As I mentioned before, you're going to be talking about career pathways, understanding how those folks got to those career pathways, and asking any questions, especially maybe some follow-ups to what happened on that panel, okay? So we'll do 30 minutes each. I also want to mention, while I have you all, we have some internship opportunities for students that come through our programs. This is John. This is actually how we met John last year. He was part of a Navigate Toolkit program. It's a paid opportunity with our sponsor, Navigate. So that's one program that you can consider applying towards. There's a second program in partnership with Octagon as well. So we'll share more information about these programs, but we'll be remiss if we didn't promote it while we had you on stage. And then lastly, this is the first of 2 additional days of programming. The Hiring Insights Expo presented by Revel XP starts tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's similar in nature. There's a panel discussion, there's career conversations at roundtables, and then there's actually a speed networking component as well. So 3 different social capital building opportunities for you all. All right, I'm done. Lana, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pat. I am going to drop the table maps for our pros. And then once I end the session, everyone will be pushed into the social lounge where you'll be able to see all of the tables. So please click into there. And then if you see that there are some seats still open, please try to fill out all the tables, and then we'll let you know when to switch. Anything else, Pat?
No, great work. Really, really amazing work, guys. Thanks for all the questions and for the insights. We do this for you, and I think you made it a really enjoyable experience for the panelists as well. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And then if you find that there are no seats available, just wait until a seat opens up, and then you can click right in. All right,
after
guys.
the 30 minutes, just important to note, we don't want you guys bouncing around during the first session. So after the 30 minutes, that you can go to that table, okay?
Yep. And if you have any issues with your mic or camera or whatever it is, I'll be at that SBC support table. And you can also DM me and I'll figure it all out for you.
Thank you all. Thanks, John.